Pastor Adrian Davis is a thief.
All right, I'm working on trying to bring y'all some good news, but the bad news just keep rolling in. So we have Pastor Adrian Davis, who was already accused of being a thief by Larry Reed back in August of 2022. And then people were saying that he was still stealing in 2019 before Larry Reed even made this post. And now we get this.
8 federal court documents obtained by WAFF show a former Huntsville pastor is going to plead guilty to federal wire fraud charges after he spent hundreds of thousands of church dollars on luxury items for himself. WAFF 48's Faith Delp has more on his purchases and his charges.
Adrian Davis was the senior pastor at the now closed Huntsville branch of All Nations Worship Assembly. New court documents show that Davis used the church's money from around 2018 to around 2020 to buy cars, shoes, and much more. This is Davis back in 2019, during the time he is accused of taking funds from the ANWA church. Court documents say he bought a $30,000 Audi and $45,000 GMC SUV with the church's money during this time. They also say Davis used the ANWA church's fund to pay off over $100,000 of his own credit card debt. Court documents say some of the purchases on that credit card include a $4,900 purchase from Louis Vuitton and more than $18,000 in jewelry. The documents also say he used the church's money to pay his mother's mortgage. In addition to the wire fraud charges, Davis is going to plead guilty to filing a false tax return. Court documents show in 2021, Davis filed a false tax return stating he made around $138,000 in 2020, but he knew he received more than that. Court records show Davis has signed a plea agreement, pledging to plead guilty to federal wire fraud and filing a false tax return. As part of the agreement, he will have to pay back over $400,000 to the church and another $100,000 back to the IRS. He is also facing up to 23 years in prison across all charges.
I don't know about y'all, but for me, nothing about this man says pastor. When I looked up his IG and on his TikTok, everything reads, I want to be famous. It doesn't read, I want to lead God's people, because we already know that when you're leading God's people and you're starting out doing that, ain't nothing famous about it. It is a lot of hard work. This man is on IG talking about he a speaker, he a photographer, he everything else but a pastor. No wonder why he was able to take the church's money, because y'all couldn't see the fruit. Y'all couldn't see this, baby. And then I got a question for y'all.
Now, can somebody explain to me what a preacher in Huntsville, Alabama need a $29,000 watch for?
Now, some people might not agree with this, but I do not believe that a man who is pastoring should wear a $30,000 watch to church. Now, he can own a $30,000 watch. I think that if you are in the pulpit preaching to a lot of people who most likely don't have a $30,000 watch, let alone a $30,000 car, you probably should leave your watch at home. Because I understand that they make money other ways, but we have to be mindful of the images that we're putting out to the people who are listening to us. And we know that God is not all about money. God is about other things. And one of those things I've said before is our obedience. But this man decides that he gonna go ahead and take the church's money and he gonna spend it on stuff like this. More watches. This watch is extremely expensive. I don't want to see my pastor walking in church with Louis Vuitton and Gucci on, because all it does is remind me of this dude right here.
Y'all remember that Christian pastor that got robbed on camera inside his church? Ironically enough, here he is facing 45 years in prison for conning and extorting a church member out of $90,000.
Yeah, and he's a thief and then went to jail. And then it reminds me of this dude right here.
Pastor David E. Taylor, the self-proclaimed apostle who claimed to have face-to-face encounters and lucid dreams with Jesus, was arrested after he was accused of forcing his followers into unpaid slave labor at his ministry's call center and punished with physical and mental abuse if his daily quotas wasn't met.
Before I go any further, let me ask you a question. Did you subscribe to the channel? I'm not charging Netflix prices, so go ahead and subscribe. And I want to make sure that you like the video because it helps the algorithm to push it out. And you're not the only one who wants to watch it. Now let's hear what Adrian had to say in this next video, because I truly believe he was talking about himself.
This is my prayer for every man. I pray that you find purpose beyond your paycheck. I pray that you realize you're more than just stuff. I pray that you find a community that you can be honest and not be looked at as if you're less than because you have things that you're working through. And just because you're transparent enough to communicate those things, it doesn't make you any less than a man or any weaker than the next man. And I pray that you find a space, not for you just to be transparent, but a place that you can feel vulnerable. Because transparency and vulnerability are not the same thing. I pray that you find relationship and companionship that allows you to grow and gives you the grace to grow and make you feel as though you don't have to have it all together. I pray that you see yourself beyond what people have said, beyond the narrative that people have created. I pray that you find a stronger version of yourself that doesn't see yourself according to how much money you have in the bank, but according to the strength of your relationship with God and the identity that you found within God. I pray that you find your true self, and I pray that you wake up and realize that you're him, regardless of what you've lost, regardless of what's been said, regardless of who talked about you, regardless of who stopped talking to you. So my prayer for you is that you realize who you are.
This is why we need to stop idolizing money and materialistic things, because it'll catch us up every single time. People like Adrian need to quit playing with the Lord. You either want to lead God's people or you don't want to lead God's people. And there are too many people in the pulpit pretending like they want to lead God's people because they want to be famous. If you want to be famous, figure out another way. But people are in this pulpit trying to do it because it's one of the fastest ways to do so. And it's easy to manipulate people because all you got to say is, I believe in the Lord and the Lord told me and the Lord did this. And then if you show up looking like the Lord did all those things, everybody's eyes is getting big. And they're like, ooh, the Lord gave you a $30,000 watch and put you in a Rolls Royce. Well, I know if he did it for you, he could do it for me. No, 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 no. That is not what we want to put out there. And I really wish that us as believers would understand that, yes, God can do all things. Sometimes you don't know what God wants to do for you, and it may not be to give you a Rolls Royce. And I know it's things because I know everybody believes that God wants them to be rich and famous, but it's just not true. Read your word and you will see. Do Paul talk about being rich and famous? Does he talk about living in mansions? Like, how many people up in here are talking about living in mansions and stuff? Baby, even David was a king, and I felt like he was just running for his life. Even Noah was, God's chosen, and he was in a tent naked, drunk. Not in a mansion. When the Israelites were saved, God could have easily thrown them in a mansion somewhere. But they wind up being in the desert, in the woods for 40 days and 40 nights. Because they was hard-headed. A lot of times God wants to give us things and we're not getting those things because we're disobedient. Because we call ourselves playing with God and trying to outsmart God. Baby, you can't outsmart God and play with God. He'll let you play for a little while. But eventually he's going to set you down. Adrian Davis has been set down. And that church has been closed. And now you have a lot of people that he was leading that he has broken that have to find their way back to Christ, because I'm pretty sure that some of them have walked away. That's the unfortunate part. And I hate to see it. But at the end of the day, as a believer, we have to pray for Adrian. And the main thing that I will be praying is that he gets his lesson out of this and he repents for his wrongdoing. Let me know what you think about this story in the comments below, because that's what I'm here for.